Hey there, and welcome back to another session of Pellet Tech 101. Today I have the GMG Davy Crockett right here, and I'm going to show you how we replace or remove and reinstall the Auger feed motor that's in the system here. So as you can see, I've already removed the control board, and I have removed the actual hopper assembly from this. Now it's my suggestion that anytime we need to remove the hopper, whether we need to work on the Auger motor or the combustion fan or the igniter, that we disconnect that control board first. Obviously make sure that there's no power supply running to the unit. But the two wires we have coming to the control board, we have our main wire harness, our Molex connection, and then we have the clip here for the thermal sensor. And there's just not a lot of room. If we leave the board connected in there as we try to pull that hopper off, it just makes it very difficult. So make it easier on yourself and go ahead and remove the control board. You just have two bolts here that remove the control board. And then again, you have your main Molex here, and then you have your little clip for your thermal sensor here. But remove that first, and then go ahead and remove the bolts, the 10mm bolts here that hold on the hopper. Again, the Davy Crockett, for the most part, most models come with this 10mm T-wrench. If you don't have that, either a socket or a wrench will be fine, but most of these bolts are 10mm on here. So once you have the hopper off and your control board off, basically, the only two wires left on the hopper are going to be the spade and the bullet that go to your 12-volt outlet port that's there. So we just simply pull those off, and then we're able to set that hopper to the side. Now, the Auger feed motor is attached to an actual bracket right here, and then we have kind of bracket connections that go down to this safeguard, I like to call it, down below. So let's first remove this little safeguard. Let's get that off of there. So again, just the 10 mil on this. Now, not all Davy models will have this grate in place. This is something that they added over the last few years. So if you have an early model, you may not have this grate. If you don't, it's fine. Nothing to worry about. Just set that off to the side. Keep our bolts separate for that. Now the bolts here for the brackets are basically holding in the Auger motor mount right to our cavity right here. So we're going to pull these bolts off as well. First though, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to disconnect the connections from my Auger motor into the wire harness. So those are just bullet connections. And I usually just grab two pairs of pliers here. And so these are color-coded, black to black, red to red. It is important, as this is a DC motor, so it is very important that when we're reconnecting, black to black, red to red. So now that we have the motor itself disconnected from the wire harness right here, we're ready to go ahead and pull this out. So I'm just going to grab these two 10mm bolts that are again for the brackets. So it's important to remember that the brackets here will curve in. So some folks will do a little bit of a marking on here, like right, left, that kind of thing. But it's the bracket that curves in on each side. So we're just going to kind of pop that off. Something on this side. Pop that off. And be careful, because the Auger motor itself is loose right now. We don't want that falling to the ground. So we do want to be careful. Now at this point, the Auger motor itself, the only thing that's holding this in place is there is a small cotter pin in between the mount right here that's holding the shaft of the Auger motor to the shaft of the actual auger itself. So we need to go ahead and pull that cotter pin out. I find a long needle nose pliers can be a great tool for that. This one I have removed a couple of times. However, I know that when I was first starting on this, that cotter pin was really tight. So I actually had to go in there with like a long flathead screwdriver and kind of pry that cotter pin up and off of there. Now that I've put it on and off a few times, the cotter is pretty flexible. So we're just going to grab that with a needle nose, pull that out. As you can see, the cotter pin here that I have has been installed a few times there. It has a little bit of a gap. One thing that I do find is that cotter pins, as they're new, are very tight, and especially when we go to put the new Auger motor back in, can be very challenging to do. even once we initially started, I found that once I put the new motor back in, that I had to kind of hold, whoop, I don't want to let that motor fall. I had to hold my needle nose to the top of where that was, and then I had to take basically a ball peen hammer and I had to tap down on the top of that needle nose to get the cotter back in there correctly. So just note that it is going to be tight at first. Basically what I've done is I've kind of spread this cotter pin open a bit more, and it just makes it easier to pull this in and out should we need to. So basically at this point, once the cotter pin is out, the motor is off. Now all the motors coming from the Davy Crockett for the most part are going to be the motor and the bracket. However, if you just get a motor only, this bracket is easily taken out with these 4 bolts right here. When it comes time to put the new auger motor in place, the auger shaft right here can be turned if needed. So let's just say that the shaft from the auger motor and the shaft here on our actual auger itself, maybe they're not quite lining up once we have this in place. So it's easier without pellets in it, but I can grab a pliers and I can give a turn here to this auger shaft. So that'll help me line that up better. I could also, again, this is a DC motor, so I could also have like a 12-volt battery off of my cordless drill, and I could just make a couple connections right here to the bullets, and that would allow me to kind of manually turn this auger shaft so I can line the 2 up here with the hole. But the easier that you can make that on yourself, the faster this process will be. So when you get your new motor and the mounting bracket is installed, the hub of the motor right here is up. So as we're putting the shaft in there like that, we have 2 little notches where you know that the motor bracket is sitting in the right position. The right side is in the upper right corner, the left side is in the lower left corner, and that's when we know that that's in the proper position. So I'm just going to go ahead and get the bolts started right here, just so that the auger motor is secure before I attempt to reinsert that cotter pin. So again, with our brackets, like I said, they curve in. So this is going to be our bracket for the right side. And what I found on here too that's important is that they kind of need to be evenly tightened up to get them in there correctly. So I'm not going to crank anything down until I have both in place. And again, you'll kind of feel, based on these 2 little nubs, you'll feel when the bracket's in place. If you're having a difficult time getting the bolts in, double check to make sure that that upper right and that lower left corner is kind of locking into those nubs. So now that we got those started, we'll just give them a gentle tighten here. And then once I got everything set with the motor itself, we'll lock those down all the way. So now we just want to secure the auger motor shaft to the auger itself. Right now, with how this one is lining up, I'm going to be putting this in on the left side. I go the longest side of the cotter pin first, allows me to find the hole in there. And then again, from here, if I need to get a good fit, I will put my flathead in here like so. I can use just a small hammer to tap this in place, just like that. There we go. Now the cotter pin is all the way down, and as I'm checking it, it's going all the way through, so we got a good secure fit in there. So that's it. That is the replacement of the auger motor. Now that we have that in place, I'll just go ahead and reconnect my wires here. So again, red to red, black to black. We'll grab our pliers here just to make sure that we have a solid connection with each of these. Okay, just like that. And last, we'll go ahead and we'll put that guard right underneath here again. But that is the replacement of the Auger feed motor inside of the GMG Davy Crockett. So hopefully this video was helpful for you. Questions, comments, concerns, whatever it might be, just leave a message here in the video. Always happy to help and make sure that you're taken care of and you're out there grilling some great food. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again on another session of Pellet Tech 101.